Hello everyone and welcome to Krimson University. I am your professor, KrimsonKreamer, and here I will be teaching you all the tips and tricks I've learned in video games and bringing them to you in a learning experience that is fun, interactive, and overall enjoyable for you all to watch and learn. So please, take your seats, get your pencils ready, and let's start today's lesson. Alrighty class, now today's lesson is going to be how to play Ganondorf in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now, the thing with Ganondorf is that he's a heavy set character. You know, he doesn't get set flying very easily, but you know, he packs a lot of punch. And unlike his past incarnations in the other Smash Bros. Games, he's actually a little bit faster and stronger to play in this game. So learning his moveset and stuff is going to be a lot easier. They also changed his moveset a little bit, so keep that in mind during this playthrough. If you've never played Smash Bros. Ultimate and you have been playing the past ones, you definitely want to watch this because, like I said, they changed up his moveset a little bit, and he's a little bit faster and a little bit more stronger than he used to be. I also want to state, guys, that for this series, I'm going to be measuring everything in the block squares that you see on the Smash Bros. Training room, and I call those squares units. So if you hear me say, oh, his attack extends 2 units, or his attack extends 1 unit, that's what I mean by that. There's also going to be a visual description of what I'm talking about, so it's a lot easier for you guys to follow. I just wanted to just give a brief disclaimer right now before we get into the rest of this video. Now let's get into Ganondorf's standardized moveset. Now his neutral A is just a slight palm thrust forward that reaches 2 units in front of him, and it does a considerable amount of damage. His down A also reaches 2 units in front of him, but as a lower tier attack rather than mid tier like his neutral A does, and his side A also reaches out 2 units, kind of like right in the middle of neutral A and down A, but again extends out 2 units attacking the opponent. His up A, however, pulls in opponents that are 3 to 4 units away from him. It's got this weird effect where you'll see the smoke on the ground come towards Ganon as he starts to come down with an axe kick, and it pulls in the opponent. So if an opponent isn't wary of where they are, they will be hit with this, and so if they're blocking, it'll pull them in regardless if they're blocking or not, and still hit them, dealing a considerable amount of damage. It may not break the guard, it might break the guard depending on where their guard is, but like I said, it does pull in characters who are not wary of his tilt up A attack, so that's also really good for Ganondorf. His dash A hits at 1 unit and Ganondorf moves 4 units for the attack. So the attack is 1 unit in front of him, however the attack extends up to 4 units in front of him at the start of the attack towards the end of the attack. Up next is Ganondorf's air attacks and grabs. Now his neutral air is a 1 unit attack that actually hits twice. He basically does a 1-2 kick combo in the air, and like I said, it only extends out 1 unit in front of him. His forward air is a 1 unit arc in front of Ganondorf, meaning that it's going to swing from like maybe about like a 90-degree angle in front of him. It's a very short arc, but it has a large hitbox that's in front of him, but it only hits 1 unit that's around him. His up air is a 1 unit arc above Ganondorf, starting from, like, it's a weird arc. It's not a 360, it's a little bit less of a 360. It starts from diagonal down of Ganondorf and extends all the way back to the other side, not reaching the unit that is below Ganondorf usually. And it's a pretty big arc, meaning that if anyone is trying to attack Ganondorf from the air, he can easily sweep them away, and it's a good juggle move to use. And then finally, his down air is a 1-2 unit reach that meteors the opponent if it makes contact at the sweet spot at the bottom of his kick, meaning it's going to send the opponent flying downwards, and if it's off the stage, that is beautiful, and if not, they're going to bounce off of the stage, and that's still going to send them flying upward, leading Ganondorf into doing a juggle in the air if he wanted to. Now, as for his grabs, it's a 1 unit reach grab, and the down air spikes, the The up air launches the opponent straight up, and the side grabs just throw the opponents left and right. They don't really do anything special, but that's really all that I have to say about his grabs. Now, with all of his neutrals and tilts out of the way, now let's get into his smash attacks. His first smash attack, he pulls out his giant-ass Ganon sword, and it reaches 2 units at a 90-degree angle, starting from the top of Ganondorf's frame all the way to in front of him and down below. And it is one of his most strongest attacks, coming in behind, actually, his Warlock Punch we will get into later. As for his down smash, it's got 2 different attacks. The first attack is 2 units in front of him on the lower side of Ganondorf, and the second hit is 1 to 2 units behind him. And the special thing about Ganon's down smash is that if it hits in front, it pulls the opponent to the back, hitting them with the second attack. And even if it's just the second attack it hits, it'll still send them flying, regardless if it was the first attack that hit and it pulled them to the back, or if they were just standing behind Ganondorf and he hits them with it. It'll just send them flying back. Now for his up smash, Ganondorf hits at a 180-degree angle around himself. The swing starts from in front of him, starting at 1 unit, then at the top of the arc it extends to 2 units, and then finishes off behind Ganondorf at a 1 to 2 unit mark. Now let's get into Ganondorf's special attacks, which I also dub the B attacks because that is the button that they are usually mapped to. If you guys change your buttons, I'm sorry. So if I say special instead of B or B instead of special, I basically mean the same thing. You guys will know as we go on with this series. Now, for Ganondorf's neutral special, it's called the Warlock Punch, and is an attack that charges about 2 to 3 seconds before the attack goes off. It has a 2-unit reach, and Ganondorf can also spin mid-charge during this attack, and it'll be an even more powerful attack if he spins and lands it. And also to keep in mind, his ground version of the Warlock Punch has super armor compared to his air version, so it's a little bit more risky using the Warlock Punch in the air than it is on the ground. Now for Ganondorf's side B, it's an attack that lunges forward for 5 units and grabs the opponent, and it doesn't really necessarily send them spiking down because they don't bounce off the ground. It kind of just keeps them there on the ground, allowing you to follow up with like a neutral down A or even a smash down A, depending if your opponent rolls forward or back. Basically, it all depends on how you read the opponent and what they do. However, also, if you use this in the air and you grab them in the air, Ganondorf will grab the opponent and go flying down with them. So if you're over a platform, it'll do the same thing where it just spikes them down and keeps them on the ground. Or if you're off the edge of the screen, it'll send you guys careening down into what has been dubbed the Ganon side, because if you land the attack, it's going to kill you and your opponent. However, if you do this, it'll kill you before it kills the opponent. So if you do this on your last stock between you and your opponent will win the match because it'll kill you first. So tend to try to use the Ganon side technique when you have more stocks over your opponent. Also, it's called Ganon side because if you miss the attack, it'll leave Ganondorf in a helpless state, meaning that he can't do any extra jumps or any other attacks because the attack will, like I said, leave him in helpless state. Now, for Ganondorf's down special, it's an attack that reaches up to 8 units ahead, and it extends him off the edge. Unlike the Flame Choke that we just explained before, if you use it towards the edge of the screen, Ganondorf won't go off of the edge. It'll keep him on the platform. However, about halfway through into the down B that Ganondorf does, if you use that within the first 4 units, it'll send Ganondorf flying off the edge. Rather than after the 4 units, it'll keep him platformed, keep him footed on the platform if he does so. Also keep in mind, when he does his Warlock kick in the air, Ganondorf goes down at a diagonal angle depending on what way that you're facing. And also very interesting to learn that during this attack, at the tip of his toe, it also meteors opponent if you hit them in that sweet spot. So that's very interesting to know if you are going to go for a Warlock kick in the air, and if your opponent is coming at you, you do one of those, and you can actually send your opponent careening down in a meteor from that attack. And now finally, let's end with Ganondorf's last attack, his last special attack, which is his up B, and it reaches up to 6 units up, and it's a grab that sends foes flying, while Ganon will fly an extra 4 units backwards and upwards at a diagonal angle, allowing him to continuously set up with different attacks because it'll reset his jump and all of his other attacks. So if you're in a multiple battle and there's an opponent that's close to you after you land that first up B, you can go for a second up B to attempt to grab them. Also keep in mind, if you don't hit with the grab, if you don't grab, Ganondorf still has like a 1 unit hitbox. It's not really a 1 unit, it's on his person, so I guess it's more of a 0 unit hitbox, where his energy will attack the opponent. So even if you miss the grab and they're just out of reach, the attack might hit them depending on how close they are to Ganondorf. So like I said, also keep that in mind when you're using this attack. Now that we got through all of Ganondorf's normal moves, let's get into his final smash move. Now keep in mind that for tournaments and stuff, I highly doubt they'll allow the final smash to be implemented, being that it is still like an unfair move that could be used against your opponents. However, they might add it with the final smash bar being there. I'm not entirely sure, but I still want to teach you how this final smash works, because it's actually a really good move depending on where you are on the stage and where your opponent is. So I definitely want to teach this to you guys. Now, for Ganondorf's final smash, he transforms into Ganon, which is the giant pig form that he takes in Ocarina of Time, where he grows into the giant pig form and has 2 swords. Now, when he turns into this form, he starts his attack, he grows, and then he does a 2-sword slash in front of him. I can't really measure out the units because the entire stage transforms, and I can't really read the measurements. However, I'm going to say it maybe extends about 2 to 3 units in front of Ganondorf, which 2 to 3 to 4 units in front of Ganondorf. He does a downward slash attack, which I actually learned really interesting, is that that attack meteors your opponent down if they're in front of you and if they're in the air. So instead of on the ground where your opponent would be, where that attack would stun, if they're in the air, it actually meteors them down. So if you're off the edge and you use this attack and your opponent is trying to recover back, definitely use this final smash to send your opponent flying downwards. Now, after that follow-up attack, Ganondorf will then rush across the stage, and I believe he stands about maybe like 8 to 10 units high off of the ground. That might be highballing it, but like I said, I couldn't really read the measurements of it when he does this attack, and he will lunge across the entire stage, sending the opponent flying with his most powerful attack, and then afterwards Ganondorf will reappear in the spot where you use the final smash, also resetting all of his attacks, so you can use the side B to get back to stage or the up B to get back to stage, depending on where you are if you were off the stage to begin with. If not, it's just going to put him back in the normal spot that he was standing in when you use the attack. Alright guys, now that you know all of Ganondorf's attacks and movesets, let me give you my final overview of the character himself. Now, Ganondorf is a lot better than he was in his past versions of the other games. I did not like the version that they put into Smash Bros. Brawl and Smash Bros. Wii U, because he was a lot slower and a lot clunkier than he was. A lot more like his Melee counterpart, where he was a little bit faster but at the same time strong. But they changed him up in a way where instead of like having like the same moves as Captain Falcon with like the elbows and the knees, they gave him his sword, which in Ocarina of Time he had. So it definitely keeps it in line with the character model that they use. And I think it was very well implemented into Smash Brothers. The way that he uses his attacks, he's very good. He still has this very similar moveset to Captain Falcon, but like I said, they changed him up enough to where he's not an echo fighter of him. He's his own character, and I definitely like the way that he works, especially with his side B that grabs, his Warlock Punch that has super armor compared to Captain Falcon's Falcon Punch, which does not. He is just an overall fast and powerful character who is definitely top tier of the tier list in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I definitely main Ganondorf personally. However, you guys can definitely come up with moves that could definitely beat him out if you are playing the right characters. However, I believe that Ganondorf himself is just an overall good fighter. He's fast, he's strong, he's got a lot of good potential, he's got a lot of good recovery. He may not have a lot of combos to like follow up with. He might not have like a 1-2 combo or any like the rapid combos. But Ganondorf doesn't need that, being that he's a heavy character. He can deal out a lot of damage. Ganondorf can OHKO someone at 60% damage. Usually it takes a character to get above 100% to send someone flying. Ganondorf can kill someone at 60% damage. So you don't need to do a lot of attacks with Ganondorf to kill. You just need to land a lot of his attacks. So, like I said, you don't need a lot of attacks to kill with him. He's very strong, and at the same time, he's quick. He's quicker than most other heavy characters. I believe the only other heavy character that's a little bit faster than him would be Bowser. Bowser is like hella fast in this, but we'll get into that in a different video. But overall, I like Ganondorf. I like his new moveset, and I definitely think he is going to be a strong, competitive. He's going to be a strong competitive character in the Smash Brothers tournaments, and I can't wait to play him more and hopefully be able to go to a tournament and win with Ganondorf. But that's on a personal note. Anyway, guys, that is going to be it for today's lesson. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I hope you guys took notes and you learned a lot from this character overview. And if you guys have any questions about anything, please leave them in the descriptions below. Don't forget to write a comment on any of my Discord, my Twitter. Write to me, let me know what you guys think. Follow me on all my social medias. And with that, guys, I will see you later. And as always, good gaming, God bless, and keep on keeping on. And yeah, that's it.